$6 for this teeny little thing of ink? That's not fair. For comparison, oh, okay, never mind. It's not the worst size to price ratio ink I own. Let's get into the review. Today we are taking a look at the Winsor & Newton's Ink 951 Black India ink. Now, if you guys are in the comic book scene or you read books on comic books, they all talk about how amazing India ink is. They're always going on and on about how smooth it is, how it dries true black, how fun it is to use. They say this ink died for your sins. Okay, that last part's not true, but you get the gist. They go on and on and on talking about how good India ink is, and I thought, you know what? I'll pick up some India ink and give it a try. Now, half of them mention Higgins, the other half mentions this ink, so as someone who's determined to master the dip pen this summer, I said I'm going to pick up as much ink as I can. Gotta say right off the back, as you saw in the intro, this ink's pretty small for how much it is. This retails for, on average, about $6, $5.99, and it's pretty small. I have not used it, I have not tried it. I will say I love the little illustration on the front. Let's get a zoom in on that. I don't know why, but that's just absolutely hilarious to me. I don't have the box this came in because I actually just found it like this at Michael's. So it took the guy who checked me out like an extra 10 minutes to figure out what this was. I will say I like how sturdy it is. It's made out of glass with a little plastic cap. So let's undo that. And it reveals the ink inside. I'm so excited to give this a shot. It's also very bubbly too, which is interesting. So let's grab our Batman sketchbook and give this a test. We are really starting to fill this sketchbook up. We got our water, dirty rag, dip pen, and ink. Get a good dip, and let's do this. First mark. Pretty smooth. It's very, very smooth. I really like how, so far, it's still true black, which is very nice, always a bonus for me. It's a very thick ink, I'm noticing, because on my nib, it really likes to hug close to that, so that's interesting. The only thing I'm noticing, it's really sticking to my nib, so I'm really going to have to carefully clean my nib, and it can be a little kind of clunky because of that. It's kind of almost gunking up the nib itself. Let's give it a quick clean. Oh wow, our water turned black from that. With just a few dips and the first time you clean your nib, that's how you know you have a good ink. Wow, that's nice. There's some bubbles in here. I'm wondering why. It is nice. That's literally night and day. It's smooth, not as smooth as the acrylic ink, but I love just how pitch black that is. That is so nice. I can see why so many people go on and on about India ink. I'm actually impressed by how quick it's drying. I can see it drying in front of me, and it has a more of a sheen, but it's still keeping that original pigment of black. I love that. All right, I just did my logo. My little signature right there. Because of how small it is and with the price range, I was concerned, you know, is this going to be a really good ink? You know, if you get an ink that comes in a small container and it's like $5 and it's pretty small, you're kind of like thinking, you know what, it's probably expensive because it's really nice. But there's always something in the back of your head where you're like, is it good though? Is it worth it? Yeah, this is worth it. I gotta say, guys, I'm impressed. I really, really like this ink. It's smooth. And even though it does take a little bit longer to dry, I'm noticing, not as long as the acrylic ink, it still dries really nice. In person, at the angle I'm looking at, it's still true black. On camera, I'm noticing that it's a little gray towards the edges, and I think that's the angle and the fact it's on camera, so there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. I think an ink like this that comes in a small little glass bottle with an old-fashioned illustration and a name like Winsor & Newton, its whole presentation deserves something a little extra. So for this illustration, because after we've done our little experiments, we always do an illustration, I have something special. I have a piece of Bristol board with an illustration of a knight fighting a giant Komodo dragon. I know you can't see it. It's done with blue pencil. I think something like this is going to be pretty good for an illustration for an ink like this. So it's also going to be a good test to see if we have enough ink to do the illustration. Roll that B footage. And it's finally done. I am so happy with how this piece came out. 2 hours and 45 minutes for a piece like this. That's awesome in my book. Now that doesn't include dry time, as dry time was on average about 20-ish minutes in between my 3 sessions of sitting down and working on it. Just because of the accuracy of the piece, I didn't want to risk smudging it. So overall, you can add that to it. But guys, this was a fun ink. There is some slight paper warpage, but that's more from the actual water mixture with the ink to do the ink wash. The ink itself did not warp our page at all. There's very few streaks, and on top of that, it is not the smoothest ink I've ever used, but it's up there. It is smooth, it dries true black. This is a fun ink, guys. I heavily recommend this ink. On a scale of 1 to 10, this easily sits at an 8 or a 9. It's just up there, one of the best. And even after doing this full illustration, doing our test, and on top of that, messing up the test, so I actually refilmed it. So I used a little more ink than I showed on camera. Sometimes that happens, guys. I trip over my words super easily. There is still plenty of ink left in this little bottle. I am impressed by how much ink is left. So I could easily probably do another 2 or 3 of these illustrations like this. That $6 price range for me was a little steep for the size, but after testing it, after seeing the quality, and on top of that seeing that there's still plenty of ink for more illustrations, I cannot recommend this ink enough, guys. This is a solid 8 and 9 on my scale of 1 to 10. If you see the Winsor & Newton ink for anywhere from 6 and below, pick it up. I would even say it's worth $6.50 to $7. It is a joy to use. I really like this ink. And just like all of my illustrations, this piece is available on my ArtStation account for a digital download of just $1. You can use it for a smartphone, computer, or tablet background, and I make sure to include 2 high quality downloads sized appropriately. So let me know what you guys think of the ink and the illustration. Do you think I did a good job testing the ink, and have you used the ink in the past, and did you have a different opinion? Did you find that it did not meet the requirements, that you think this is not a good ink? I would really like to hear your opinions down below in the comment section. Leave a like in the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for the channel for more art-based and animation content, all the normal YouTube jazz. And remember, I am J-Rod of BATTLEBrawlerproductions, and I draw with power and my own soul.